Thanks, Ben. It is a great day to be a Bearcat. And, we're here in New Orleans, our first FBS bowl game. And I wanted to start off just thanking our team and our current coaches that are there, the job that they've done and all this transition. It's an amazing job of how they handled all of this. And, it's really great that they all want to come back and play. The coaches are here, still coaching and trying to win our 10th FBS game. That's really exciting, and I can't thank them enough for everything they did and give us an opportunity to do this. It's a special day for Bearcat football. I've been a part of it for 42 years and had the pleasure of being a part of these announcements before. This one's really exciting for me. Phil Longo has done a wonderful job here as an offensive coordinator and what he's done since he left here. And everything that I have, as we approach this opening, that we were looking for, someone that knew us, someone with FBS coordinator experiences, and just really, really good people that want to be at Sam Houston. And he checked all the boxes. As we went through this process, he continued to just rise to the level that we're getting here today, and that's a big part of why we're here today. I do want to thank our president, Dr. Lisa White. She's done an amazing job in leadership in our transition to FBS, played a major role in the success that we're having, and I can't thank her enough through this process of trusting us in how we were going about doing this so that we could get the right person to lead us to that next level of FBS football here at Sam Houston. And just all the people on campus from Amanda Withers, who's our vice president and CFO, Matt Bethay, University Advancement, that was part of this process, Chris Thompson, Travis Lease, our associate athletic directors did a wonderful job of getting to this point. I also want to thank Randy Stewart, who's been a great friend and of our program and played here, and I think their family has 19 letters here at Sam Houston in athletics, and played a major role in being a part of this process. It was a little different process than we've done in the past. We knew that we had to move very quickly because of the portal, because of the different landscape of college athletics. And I think we did it in an amazing time. We got a job posted in about 24 hours, and we've been able to get this done before the bowl game, which is what we wanted to do. And while this is a great day announcing Phil, we wanted to make sure that we did it today so that we could focus now on the team and getting that 10th win, hopefully.
Tyler had the first question for you.
Yeah, Bobby, I just wanted to, did you see, I guess, a coaching search possibly coming? Were you caught off guard at all with the timing of this? And then with the momentum the program has, do you find it beneficial, the timing of getting the kind of the coaching search done with? And do you feel like you guys are in an advantageous spot, I guess, moving forward?
I believe we are. I'm never really surprised by these type. Casey and I had developed a long-time relationship. We talked a lot about everything, especially opportunities for him. And this was a great opportunity for him to get back closer to his home roots. And so he and I had talked about that. We had talked about some other jobs that he might be interested in as well. I'm always supportive of our head coaches if they want to move to a different direction. And it's always good to be in a situation when you're winning and you're even having coaches move forward in other opportunities, and that's okay because we want to continue to be successful. I think one of the things from the search, it's never a good time. And this was an unknown for us being in the bowl season for the first time and dealing with a coaching change. That's why I was really pleased with the process. The candidate pool was unbelievable. I mean, it was probably the best I've ever been a part of in at least my 27 years as athletic director. The talent pool of people that were interested in our job was a great compliment to our university and our program, how we're doing it. And then the way the players and the current coaches have handled this bowl situation and not opting out, even though they're in the transfer portal, some of them, they're still playing. And that energy that they're bringing to try to win 10 games is very, very special. And so from my standpoint, it was probably the least anxiety that I've ever had in trying to hire a coach because of all those factors. It just seemed to be going that way. I know Phil wasn't. Phil would call me and different things like that, so I'll let him speak to that when it's his opportunity. But a lot of my job is is counseling and coaching up. I'm still a coach at heart, but getting people to be in the right place, right time, and these searches are all about timing in a lot of ways, and how it flows. But everybody, I can't really emphasize the outpouring of support from across donors, the external fans, everybody, and even internally on our campus, support for Phil. And when you're hiring and you're in that position, and you get that kind of positive feedback, boy, it sure makes it easy to come to work every day and not have those anxiety moments.
Bolton Foster. Bolton, can you hear us?
Yeah, Phil Longo was kind of a name from the jump that everybody was kind of looking. Yeah, I can hear y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess I lost it.
Must have lost us.
Phil was a name from the jump that was kind of on top of the radar. Just kind of what was the process getting with him from the beginning and just kind of all the way through?
Well, Phil and I have had a relationship since he was assistant coach here. That's one of the things I do as athletic director. I always want to develop those relationships with coaches and talk because, as we've done in the past in several sports, whenever we had a coaching change, and it's a positive coaching change, then we've moved coaches up. And he and I began discussions. We've meet just about every year, a couple of times a year, or at least talk on the phone, have forever. It's ironic that when right before I went into my surgery and before we even knew Casey was leaving, Phil and I were going to get together when he was in town. And after that, I talked to the team on Sunday. That Thursday, we got together and knew what we were working through. That was before we even started the process of interviewing. And that's just because we've had that relationship and we understand. And I've seen him, how he handles players, how he handles donors, and how he runs offenses. I do joke with him. I'm as an old defensive coach, but part of my wide receiver in me loves the 100 plays a game and the no huddle and all that stuff. But as a defensive coach, I like to slow it down a little bit. But he's our head coach now, and I trust in how he's going to run the program, and that's an exciting time for me as an athletic director.
Neal.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Colin.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Bobby, over the last 40 years or so, you've only hired less than a handful of coaches, but this is your first head coaching hire for football, of NIL and transfer portal. Just kind of, did this process differ from a lot from the last few hires that you had to do, or did you keep pretty much the same philosophy when it comes to the approach?
Pretty much the same philosophy. I mean, a lot of, and I think a lot of the candidates thank me for not using a search firm because I'm just old school when it comes to that, and I've been doing this a long time, and there's not many people that can tell me anything about Sam Houston football that I don't already know. So that's a positive and going into that aspect. But with this new age of NIL and the portal and everything, we've been dealing with that for the last 4 years as we were moving different conferences because of the fact the ever-changing landscape of the NCAA was different than what we had worked for 40 years to get to this point. So I think it fits with our strategic plan that Dr. White promotes and General Glazer too, that for the university is that we have to be very agile. And we have been. We've done a great job, not only our coaches, but I think our administrative staff have done a great job of maneuvering around all the different changes. We know that we're behind in a lot of areas, but that doesn't keep us from being successful. And that's the type of individual we want here at Sam Houston, to understand us, know that we keep growing and improving on a lot of things, but we've got to be successful to keep doing that. And I'm very, very proud that we're able to do that. And I wish we got a little bit more credit for that too, from that perspective, because we do win in spite of any circumstances that we have. The funny thing is, I've had a lot of former coaches, and even during this process, a lot of people, I don't say no to coaches. I never have. I don't ever remember any time saying, no, we can't do that. We adapt, we maybe move in a different direction, but Phil's writing it down, that's for sure. But, we adapt, we make the adjustments, and it's maybe not today, it may be a year from now, 2 years, but we're going to get it done at some point in time. And that's the type of relationship I want to build with our coaches and our staff and our student athletes, that we're always moving forward, and it's more about timing when we make things happen.
Carlos.
Hey, everybody. You talked about in your opening statement that Coach Longo checks all the boxes, being a former OC of the program and with his experience at the Power 5 level. What are some of those other boxes that you think he checked the box of outside of the other candidates?
I think he develops quarterbacks at an extremely high level, and that's important. I think the times we have been extremely successful in our football program, we've had really great situations at quarterback. Doesn't mean they were always the best athlete or most talented in some aspects, but they played at a high level and they were winners. And that's the thing that I've always admired about Phil, how he's done that. He's done it after he left here too, at the other places he's been, and that's a big positive too. But I also think, his family, great people, and he wanted to be here. And I wanted someone that wanted to be here, wanted to build something long term, because that's one thing that we have. Although coaches may leave and have another opportunity, while they're here, it's like they're making decisions based like they're going to be here for 40 years like I've been, and make it better. And I think that's so many of the things that he checked. And of course, and all the candidates I knew, and thought very highly of them, and they did a great job. And it did take me, we interviewed, Phil interviewed last on Friday, and then Saturday I thought I'd have a decision. I didn't have one. Sunday I didn't have a decision. I met with Dr. White on Monday morning, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I had to make sure it was the right thing, and I knew it was. And once we did that, then we got it happen as soon as we could.
Anybody else with questions for Bobby before we move on to Coach Longo? Yep, Colton got another one.
Yeah, just as much as it's been beat about Phil, what's it been like? These last 48 hours or so, being able to prepare for a bowl game as well as hiring this coach.
Oh, it's been fun. You don't. A lot of times you stress out when you do these hires, and I have been very fortunate. The last 2 hires I've made, men's basketball last spring, and this one with football, have been very positive and relaxing. To be honest with you, it's not like I've been worried about too many things from that perspective. In the past, I might have had a little more anxiety about making the decision, or a little more pressure. This one has just been, the last 2 have been really positive, and it's fun. At my age of my career, as long as I can walk in every day and have the support that I get with our president and our university, and have fun doing what I'm doing, that's really important. This bowl game's really important to me, and I think that's what's really made it. I said it a while ago, how everybody has handled this, and the excitement and the energy, and the coaches staying and the players staying to make this happen. That's a great compliment to our university, but that's a great compliment to our athletic program and our football program, because that doesn't happen everywhere. There's a lot of changes going on in the coaching fields, and you're seeing, what was it? Marshall couldn't put a team together, and I'm glad we're not in that situation, and I'm just really excited about that, and excited that Phil's our coach.
Anything else from you guys for Bobby? Bobby, thank you so much. I know you got an airport run to make. Appreciate you taking the time. Yes.
I do. We usually have jerseys and all that stuff, but since we're on the road, we'll do it. But I do want to thank him, and the excitement when we talked, and I talked to him that's the recommendation I wanted. You could just feel it over the phone, and I know he wants to be here, and I know he's going to be a great Bearcat, and we're excited about you and the family being here.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate you.
All right, and here we go. Introducing the new head football coach for Sam Houston Bearcats, Phil Longo. Coach, welcome back to Huntsville. We're excited to have you. We'll go ahead and get an opening statement from you, and then we'll begin to take questions.
Appreciate you. Before I say anything or get into anything, I think the most important thing this week is getting a win tomorrow in our bowl game and getting to 10 wins. And I know that's important to the current coaches and the players. So I'm going to be brief with my statement, and then I'll take what other questions that you have. I drove down here to New Orleans to visit and do this press conference, and I'm looking forward to being a fan tomorrow, watching the Bearkats as I have been the last 8 years. I sent a picture to a few people on in the process here with this interview process. I sent a picture of 5 or 6 items from Sam Houston State that I have that still exist in my home, and I still wear around the house, and if my kids don't steal them first. And it's those are very there are very few schools that I have been to that I keep old items, but Sam Houston still exists in my home, and that's because Sam Houston still exists in my heart, and we are thrilled to be here. We're really excited to be here. And so I would like to just take a minute to say I want to thank the Sam Houston State University president, Dr. Lisa White, and our athletic director, Bobby Williams, and his advisor, Randy Stewart, 3 of whom were a huge part of this process, and everybody else that was involved in the process with regards to providing me with this opportunity to be what I believe is the 16th head coach at Sam Houston State University. And so I'm thrilled to be here. My family is happy. They want to book tickets down to Texas now, and we're waiting until Christmas is over, and then everybody will be here, and we're going to hit the ground running with regards to the program. The other thing I wanted to say was, I think this is important. I was driving. You have a lot of time to think when you drive. I didn't have nearly as much time on this ride because I was inundated with coaches' calls and recruits' calls and players' calls and all of the things that go with a change in the guard with regards to the head football coaching position at a university. And so I was entertaining all of those calls and texts. But I did have some time to think, and I was thinking about some of maybe the greatest moments I've had in my lifetime. I have been on this planet for 56 years, and for 51 of those years, I have been part of a full football season, either as a player or as a coach. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say football is a huge part of my life. It doesn't define me, but it has done a lot for me, and I understand the importance that football has on the lives of all of our players. I also thought about maybe marrying my wife being the greatest moment I've had, and I feel honored just to have Tanya in my life. And then obviously there are 4 wonderful children that I have home with Gianna and Makaria, and my twins Nico and Morgan, and those 4 births and my wedding probably are the top 5, and I think that would be true with most people. Now you take that and you move that aside for a moment, and sadly enough, there aren't a lot of moments in my life that are not tied to football, some way, shape, or form. And I don't just mean the wins or the great plays, but just the experiences I've had with players. Steve Smithers, a former quarterback that I coached in high school, came and visited me this past season, stayed at the house with his son. I coached him 22 years ago, and it was a thrill to have him in my home to watch the game. And I have a lot of those relationships with former players, and that's a big part of, and they're a big part of some of those great moments. So there have been some great moments. There have been some great games. There have been some great wins. There have been some great championships. But I can tell you honestly that coming here today to this hotel to do this press conference, to be the next head coach at Sam Houston State University is by far one of the top moments in my life. And so my mission from today on is to make the people that have supported me with regards to coming here and becoming the head coach happy, proud, and excited about being a part of this program. I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Casey Keeler, the former head coach, who are some huge shoes to fill right now. And I realize that. And it's a challenge, and I'm up to the challenge. And I'm excited about what lies in the future here for this program. I think that there have been many great coaches, Willie Fritz and so on, right on down the line here, and I'm honored to be a part of that line of coaches. And I'm looking forward to, especially the near future. And I plan to be here long enough to sustain some success and be a bigger part of the tradition that is Sam Houston State football. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time and attention. And if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yep, thank you, Coach. We'll go ahead and get started with those questions, and we'll get the first one from Colton Foster.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not sure how much time you spent in Huntsville, but what's it just kind of like to get back to a place that you and your family kind of call home?
Well, I think, the 3 to 4 years that we were here, was our first exposure to the area. It wasn't my first exposure to Texas. I've got relatives in Houston and in Dallas, and I've always loved the state. I've always said when I get off the plane and my feet hit the ground, I feel at home here. I think my friends and family are tired of hearing that, but that has just been the truth. That's how I and the family feel when we get here. But to come back after 8-9 years of it's been a long trek, right? We've been through the Big Ten, we've been through the ACC, we've been through the SEC. I've been around a lot of great coaches and players during that time. I think I'm a better football coach right now. I told the committee I'm a more patient football coach right now. It started 13 years ago when I had my first child. So these have all been benefits and blessings. And I've been through some really good times in the last 8-9 years, and I've been through some rough times. And I'm better for all of them. And I'm going to take that and that experience and those things, and they're all going to pay great dividends here moving forward as the head coach here at Sam. So looking around at Huntsville, which is the question you asked me, now with all the improvements and the changes, was kind of exciting. I drove around the last few days and just looked at the changes to the field and what's going on with the stadium, and the locker room is gorgeous, all the facility upgrades and everything that's been developed and been built here since I've been gone. I told the committee when I was here interviewing that it was interesting and exciting to see the things that have changed and been improved. It was also comforting to see a lot of familiar faces and be able to sit down and talk to people that I have had great relationships with for so long. So couldn't be more excited about being here. It's like coming home to family, and that's how we're going to run the football program.
Question from Tyler Shaw.
Yeah, Coach, a couple of things. First, just how much of an emphasis is kind of with player retention right now with the momentum the program has, and with the coaching change, and what is your recruiting pitch to guys that are on the fence about leaving or coming back?
It's interesting that you bring up retention, because that probably now takes center stage before even the actual recruitment of new players. And they're both vital, but in this day and age of the portal and NIL, you have a culture now that has a little bit more of an open door than it's had in the past. It used to be if you wanted to transfer, it was an automatic sit out for a year. And so there was a little bit more of a repercussion for leaving, and you really didn't leave unless there was absolutely a situation that forced you to or that you needed to leave for. Nowadays, that's not the case. There's open windows throughout the year, and if a player chooses that he wants to try his hand somewhere else, he can. I don't know whether that's good or bad for football. I have my own personal feelings on those things, but I always think about how it is for the personal development for each individual player. There's a benefit to be had from having to persevere and overcome and adapt and find your niche and build your way and earn your right to get on the field. And that door's open a little bit more right now. So recruiting is more, one, take care of the players that you have. That's probably an offshoot benefit. I think maybe there are coaches and programs right now that are doing a better job of taking care of their current players because they need to, because they want to retain them. And at the end of the season, it's hard to have a close personal relationship with an individual you don't talk to all season and then expect him to stay because of that relationship. That has to be built over time, day after day after day, and they have to understand you sincerely care about them. And I think that gives you an opportunity to keep more players on the roster and out of the portal. And sometimes it's a good thing because maybe this isn't the right place and they go find a better home elsewhere. And in those cases, in my personal approach to it is I actually want to help those players. If they don't feel this is the right place, if we agree, if it's a mutual deal, then I would rather get on the phone and help those guys and place them so that we benefit and they benefit and everybody is helped in the process. And so retention is number one as far as recruitment goes. Take care of the people you have that have earned the right to be on the field and who have been giving you everything they have every day in practice, year-round in preparation.
And Phil, sorry, I also wanted to ask, a couple of years ago, Texas A&M hired Bobby Petrino. I don't know how close in the process you were to maybe that kind of be in your path and an offensive coordinator in that kind of search cycle.
So are you asking me if I was in that process?
Right, yeah.
I'm quickly thinking here if there's anything detrimental to saying yes or no. Let's just say this: I have been a part of a lot of different processes, and I'm really careful about what I choose to do and where I go, and that's no different in this process here. But I would say make no mistake about it. My goal was to keep an eye on what Casey Keeler was doing. And I was elated that they made the move to Conference USA. And I've just watched the team over the years as a fan, and I've also watched and communicated with Coach Keeler, and I wish him the best, and I know he'll win at Temple just like he's won everywhere else. But I'm also very happy that, it provided an opening here. And I don't think it would have mattered when, truthfully. I would have tried very hard to come back here to be a part of this program as the head football coach.
Good question from Carlos.
Hey, Coach Longo.
How are you?
Made a lot of stops at Ole Miss, North Carolina, and Wisconsin across this 8-year absence from Huntsville. What were your biggest takeaways from those programs that are going to help you aid in your new role here as head coach?
So you would think I planted that question with you because it's something I think that's probably real valuable for me moving forward in leading this program. But you're correct. Like, there are a lot of things that I did take from those. I've been around a lot of great people. I've worked for Hugh Freeze and then Matt Luke and then Mac Brown and Luke Fickell and all of the assistant coaches that worked under them. There are a lot of great people and a lot of great coaches, and many of those in their own right were head coaches at some point. And so I have always been a guy that's seeking the next best step. How can we improve something that we're doing right now? And sometimes that means X's and O's, and I do things throughout the year to try and improve and develop as an individual coach. But other times it's experiences that you have, and it's been 8-9 years of a lot of good times and a lot of good football, on both sides of the ball, and a lot of team wins. And you start to learn and appreciate what it's like to play complementary football and actually win the game. It's not necessarily how many sacks and interceptions and how few yards you gave up on the ground, and it's not always the passing yards and the touchdowns and all that stuff. It's about getting 100-plus guys together on a weekly basis to find a way to go win a football game. And the approach at every place, and I really didn't know this going in, it's just been our philosophy to try to adapt what we do. And in my case, that was offensively because that was my job. Adapt what we do, let the talent that we have dictate what we emphasize in the offense. In 2014 and 15 here, we ran the football for over 36 or 3,700 yards, and I think we had 40-plus rushing touchdowns both years. Same team, same program, same offense, same head coach, same OC in 2016, and we throw the ball for over 5,000 yards, and Walter Payton Award winner Jeremiah Briscoe throws and sets a Division I record with 57 touchdown passes. Same program, just a different emphasis. And so from year to year, we'll look differently because it's going to be dictated and driven by the talent that we have on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. And that's something I learned going from program to program. The Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, all very different conferences, and we had to adjust and we had to adapt to some things offensively, to address the different challenges that we saw. And I don't think that's any different when you're running an entire program. The only difference in my mind, and I certainly don't want to oversimplify it or take away from the great job that many great head coaches around the country are doing right now, but the way I look at it, I've got to make it simple for myself. The vision for the offense was my job when I was the offense coordinator. And now that's a broader vision. And it encompasses special teams and defense. It encompasses staff development. It encompasses player development. It encompasses year-round calendar and a plan to get better. It encompasses controlling and making some huge decisions with regards to recruiting. It encompasses handling the media and pesky boosters. I'm looking over at Randy Stewart here, and having relationships with all of the people that are so vital and important to the football program. And so all I'm doing is the same thing I did on offense. I'm shifting my focus from the offensive side, which was my job, to what my job is now, and that is taking care of all of these players in the locker room. There'll be an incredible emphasis on the defensive side of the football. Nobody enjoys or likes good defense more than I do. And I think it's the key to winning football games. And so, excuse me, those are some of the things that I've learned. Casey Keeler taught me how to manage a football game. Every Thursday now I watch an hour of game situation film because he was brutal during the week, constantly bringing up different scenarios and asking me what we would do in those scenarios. And it became now a habitual, exercise that I go through on Thursday. Mac Brown was a phenomenal visionary for the program, and he was always about the player first, and then the team, and then the staff. And he tried to take care of those three. And, I subscribe to that. I think that's very important to keep it in that order. Matt Luke, I learned a lot from Matt Luke from an O-line standpoint, and then, boom, the next day he becomes the head football coach. And I thought he did a really good job with regards to dealing with some adversities that he didn't even anticipate because of the coaching change that happened so quickly at Ole Miss. And so, you learn how to deal with some of those tough, adverse type situations by watching others. And then Coach Fickell probably is the most consistent coach I've ever been around. He's like this all day, and it lends to confidence and some composure during the course of a workday because they can get monotonous and they can be a grind, and some are more exciting than others. But I think when you're consistent with people and they know how to deal with you and they know what they're going to get every day, you're giving them an opportunity to do a better job for you. And so I could go on for hours about the things I've stolen, but those are some of the things that encompass what I've learned along the way, and I plan on utilizing all of those tools, moving forward here.
Ben Sorrells. Ben, I think you're muted. Are you muted? We're not getting your volume.
I think he's telling you to move on, Ben.
All right.
Thank you. Yep, we'll go get one from Colin.
Hey, Coach, you've been really well known on the football coaching community for your version of the air raid offense, the don't blink offense. I was just curious about, and also for those that are not familiar with the offense, just kind of what's your goal behind it, and also what was the inspiration behind building that kind of playbook?
I caught some of it, so I'm just going to repeat it. You're just asking me with regards to the air raid philosophy and why we run that type of offense. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir. And also, what was the inspiration behind building that kind of thing?
Well, one of the charges from Coach Keeler when I got to Sam Houston was we want to play fast and we want to score points. And statistically, if you study it, the teams that have more plays during the course of the year, it correlates with having more points. Now, I've always said and I've always felt you've got to – that has to match the theme for the year. That has to match what your overall team strength is, not necessarily just what you're capable of doing on offense. And if you watched anything that we did at North Carolina, for instance, it was identical to what we did here from a schematic standpoint, but there were games and quarters and halves and plays where we were really fast like we were at Sam Houston, and then there were other times where we kind of reeled it in and we slowed it down. And that was all in an effort to control clock, win the time of possession battle in the games that we thought that was important. It was maybe the defensive coordinator said, hey, can you buy me a little time here? We've got to make some adjustments. And so you just tempo the thing down and you slow it down to try to help the other side of the football. And that's what complementary football is. And so do we want to play fast? Yes, when it's going to help us win. If we have to slow it down, then that's what we'll do. People always ask, are we going to throw it or run it more? I don't care if we throw it 70 and run it 10 or run it 70 and throw it 10. What I care about is that we're efficient doing both. So the defense has to honor and defend both. And on defense, I want to be the same way. We want to be flexible. We want to be multiple. We want to be able to attack the offense. And in a lot of ways, I have a defensive playbook at home. Every single item that I've ever come across defensively that has given us a schematic issue, caused problems for our players to handle, whether it be a pressure or a sim pressure or disguised coverage or what have you, is in my defensive playbook, and it's been organized in a way that I can share those issues with the defensive coordinator. And I want to be as aggressive and I want to be as multiple on defense as we are on offense, but we're going to play in a way that helps both sides. And I don't want to disregard special teams. That's probably where some games can be won and lost, and I don't know if there's a value that's put on that aspect of the game that needs to be put at some places, and it will certainly be important here. And so it's an all-encompassing, all-family approach, and I don't think there's any other way to win consistently over the long haul, and that's the goal here.
We'll try Ben again.
Yeah, sorry about that.
There you go.
Congrats on the job, and
Thank you.
welcome back to Huntsville. I know it's been an emphasis from the last staff to recruit Texas and Texas high school players. Is that something you want to continue, and how do you continue to cultivate relationships within the high school coaches in Texas?
So one, relationship-wise, I'll start there. I have been recruiting Texas as a primary state for 23 years. And even when I got here in 2014, I already had, whatever it was, 14, 15 years under my belt recruiting this state. So I have a lot of relationships with many of the coaches in Austin, in San Antonio, in Waco, Dallas, Houston, most of East Texas. And there's a lot of talent here. 82% of the current roster is from the state of Texas. And it was probably higher when I was here the first time. And so relationships with those coaches and their players is just pivotal to the program. Even in this world of NIL and the portal, it doesn't mean we don't and won't go after an individual player that has a significant interest in our program that we think from an athletic standpoint can help us, that is outside of the state of Texas. But the reality is there's probably a championship team within 4 hours of our university, and it's our job to go and find it. And so those relationships with the players and the coaches that we'll be recruiting from on a yearly basis, it's invaluable. I can name 20 coaches right now and tell you the last 3 schools that they were at. I spoke to Rodney Webb yesterday, who has been at Rockwall and Rockwall Heath and an AD and a football coach, and I knew him through all of that. And we were discussing all of the coaches and all of the relationships that the two of us have, because we've known each other for 20-something years, and we know all of these people. We know this group of guys, this large group of guys that makes up one of, if not the strongest high school coaches association in the country. And we are very fortunate to be in the middle. It's like the epicenter of the talent in Texas is where we're located. And that's a huge plus for us. And so those relationships will continue to pay great dividends at Sam Houston, provided we cultivate them the right way.
Another one from Colton.
The way you kind of were talking earlier, I'm just curious on staff building. Would you be, bringing in an offensive coordinator, or would you kind of want to keep over, that job?
So That's like the most asked question in my house right now. Like they're all wondering what. So here's what we're going to do. I would assume that part of the reason that I'm being hired here is because of the offensive acumen that we have, and I would assume that the expectation is that we keep scoring points and churning up yards. So I am going to have a very heavy hand on the offensive side. I will call the plays initially this first year, and I will be involved in some of the game planning. But I am going to hire an offensive coordinator because I can't preach being balanced, offense, defense, and special teams, if I don't balance out my time. And so there'll be an associate head coach, and he will help me with some of those duties to free up my time to focus on NIL and the portal and the relationships we have with the people around the program and recruiting, which is primary. But on practice week and on game day, I will be a little heavier on the offensive side from a play calling standpoint, which means I've got to hire basically the head coach of the other half of the football team to run the defense because we're going to turn that thing over to him and we're going to let him go. One of the best things that I've ever experienced in coaching was coaching under Casey Keeler, who let you coach. You know, and he's going to be mad that I tell this story, but I mean, he walked into our offensive staff room one day and he said, "Hey," it was the only time he ever did it. And he said, "Hey, can I just show you this play?" And he drew up a play. And I said, "Coach, there's 12 players on the field." And he threw the dry erase marker up in the air and walked out. And that's the only time he ever came in the office. So he truly, truly let you handle that side. Now, if it wasn't getting done, you're going to see him more often. So you got to get your job done. But that's what I envision for our positional coaches and our defensive coordinator, our special teams coordinator. And because I have the offensive background, I'll be involved on that side a little bit more with regards to game planning and play calling. And as we move forward, that may change, but that's how it will start this initial year with me.
Colton, did you have a follow-up on that? Just hold your hand up.
No, it was another question.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead with it.
I was just curious. You know, you said you've been keeping up with the Bearkats since you left. I was just curious, kind of what you've seen from them this year. Just kind of if you've watched any games or any film on them.
Yeah, I didn't get yelled at very much this year, but I did when I pulled my phone out at team dinner, which wasn't allowed, and I had the Sam game playing, you know, over here, kind of hopefully out of view, right? So, because I've been so, it was hard to leave here. Let me say that it was really hard, and I didn't want to. It was just probably the best thing for my family at the time, and looking back now. That's why I brought up the clothing item story earlier on. I've kept those things around because of how important and how wonderful my time was here. And so looking at the Bearkats this year, because I try to watch every game that I can, I saw great defense, which I think is a big reason why we were 9-3 during the regular season and we're playing in this bowl game tomorrow. And I saw a solid offense. I thought we saw a complementary offense. Is the approach to the offensive side of the ball this year similar to what we might do going forward? It's probably different, but it doesn't mean one is better than the other. It just means that's what the coaches chose as their best opportunity to win, and they proved to be right because they did a great job this year. And so I saw conservative, that sounds negative, I saw conservative, intelligent, field position football on offense, and I thought it complemented a great defense. And it gave us an opportunity to get to the fourth quarter with an opportunity to win a lot of games. And interestingly enough, I don't really think this year was much different than last year. I think last year, Sam Houston got to the fourth quarter in a lot of instances with an opportunity to win, and for whatever reason, they didn't do it. But this year, they were able to close the show at the end of the game, and it produced a much better season, obviously. And so it's been fun to watch. You know, you watch them. I watched them after I left just to see what would happen with Coach Cramsey and the rest of the guys that came in. And the defensive coordinator changed a few times, and Coach Carlin had a nice run here defensively. And you go through all these years and you watch some things, and it changes as the staff and the player base changes. But interestingly enough, same head coach, and you're still winning. And then it was fun to watch them make this transition to Conference USA, and so I am super excited about taking it to whatever the next step is in store for us moving forward.
One more question from Colin.
Hey, Coach, just kind of what's been your outlook or evaluation of Conference USA, especially with the league being a year removed from having a team represent the conference in the Year 6?
You know, it's interesting because the Conference USA is a little bit different than it was when I knew it prior, right? And so I don't want to skate your question, but I'm going to say it's really going to, when recruiting is over, and it's probably never over, but when it slows down a little bit and we can start focusing in on X's and O's and all that, I think I can get a better feel for what the strengths are and the weaknesses are in conference, what the character of the conference is. As I mentioned, the three Power Four conferences that I've been a part of were all very different. And so I'm not sure if I have a great feel yet. I knew a lot of the coaches, and I still know a bunch of them, Rich Rod on down. You know, I know those guys, and I know what they're about, and I know what their football is about. But again, programs are a little different, and, you know, Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia before was different than Rich Rodriguez at Jacksonville State. It may be different than him at West Virginia again now. So I'm going to have to take a long look at it, and then I can give you probably a more accurate answer moving forward. I do know this, though. The talent base of Sam Houston was not any less, it did not differ much from the talent base of all of the teams that we played in this year's schedule. And so moving forward, we have to make sure we maintain and improve that to achieve some of the things that we want to achieve, and that's to win the Conference USA.
I don't see any other hands up right now. Is there any more questions for Coach Longo today? Okay. Looks like we're good. Coach, congratulations. Thank you for taking the time, making the trip down here. We're excited to have you on board. All you media members who are here, thank you guys so much. I see a lot of you still in the car and making your way down here to New Orleans. We look forward to seeing you once you make it down here for tomorrow night's New Orleans Bowl. Coach, glad to have you back. And
It's good to be back.
See you in Huntsville.
Appreciate you all. See you soon. Thanks, guys.